Hello, everyone. This is Olga Redding with Iowa Organic Association. For those of you who don't know me, I am the Education and Outreach Coordinator for IOA. Welcome to the Developing a Meat Co-op with Steve Deibele. Did I say that right, Steve? Okay.
Very good.
And welcome, Steve. We're so excited to have you here today. Really looking forward to learning from your experience developing a meat co-op and learning about your experiences through this journey. I had a brief conversation with Steve a few weeks back, and it was interesting for me to hear that the COVID in 2020 was actually a beneficial aspect to Steve's business. So I'm definitely looking forward to learning more on how that has helped his business. So Steve, thanks for being here. Just to give you guys a few housekeeping items, what we'll do is I will go ahead and get started. I'll have just a 5-slide presentation that talks about IOA and our mission. And then after that, Steve will present his PowerPoint. And then we will do a Q&A session at the end of the event. So if you do have questions that come to you while you are viewing this webinar that you would like to ask for Steve to answer, feel free to type them into the chat box, and I will ask those questions of Steve at the end. And then at the end, during the Q&A portion of the event, if you feel so inclined, you're welcome to put yourself on video, welcome to unmute yourself and ask those questions. At that time. Anyways, welcome everyone, and I will go ahead and get started with my PowerPoint. So just give me 1 minute. All right. So we'll move this slideshow. All right. Thank you guys for being here today. We are Iowa Organic Association, and we are a statewide nonprofit organization that has been established since 2006. We are committed to organic education, advocacy, and community cooperation. Our mission is to advance organic agriculture and food systems in Iowa, and our members represent a diverse community of Iowa farmers, gardeners, food and farm businesses, advocates, and consumers that, of course, champion the organic movement. And we're so very grateful to each and every one of you. As far as our priorities are concerned, here are the 4 main priorities: education, outreach, advocacy, and community. And I am in charge of 2 of them, which is education and outreach. So as far as those items are concerned, we provide programs, expertise, and information to help expand and diversify organic opportunities in Iowa. We just got done with the growing organic expertise workshops that were geared towards technical service providers across the state, including NRCS staff. We also developed the Midwest Organic Sport Conference, and always looking at conducting field days. We're in the process of organizing 2 field days here to be delivered by October 1st. And as far as outreach, we connect with our audience in the public and promote research events and resources that are beneficial to the organic community. Whenever possible, we participate in conferences, trade shows, and community events. And we have a plethora of information on our website, e-news, our listserv, calendar, social media. So if you haven't connected with us that way, please do so. As far as advocacy, our priorities are at state level leadership. We try to advance policies dedicated to funding and supporting the Iowa's growing organic industry, always looking at developing relationships with policy leaders and anyone and everyone that is willing to advance organic interests. Our community is so amazing. We're encourage a culture of collaboration by connecting organic experts, stakeholders, and resources to strengthen our Iowa's organic community. And you guys represent that community, and thank you for being here today. As far as one of those resources that is super beneficial to anyone interested in organic. This organic resource directory is one of those resources. It's basically a booklet that is available in paper format, but we also have a PDF format on our website that you can access and save to your personal computer. But basically, this directory has over 900 businesses, nonprofits, educators, and service providers that are connected to the organic industry in one way, shape, or form. We believe it serves as a valuable tool for Iowa's organic community to achieve growth and continued success within the organic industry. And what's really exciting to you guys is I am in the midst of updating this resource directory. So if you have a business that has a relationship to the organic industry or know of a business that you think would be a beneficial business to be added to this directory, please reach out to me and email me their contact information, and I'll be more than happy to add them to our updated revised directory, which will be coming up soon. And of course, as a nonprofit organization, we rely heavily on your support. So if you are interested to become a member or sponsor, please connect with either myself or Roz. We're here to answer any questions. Yes, this concludes my presentation. So Steve, if you want to go ahead and get started, that would be awesome.
All right.
Just FYI, Steve, I think you were froze.
Okay.
Oh, here you go. Here you go. Here you go. I see the.
All right.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. All right. So my name is Steve Deibele, and I am, together with my wife, Marie, owners and operators of Golden Bear Farm. We're members of the Slow Farmers Co-op, which is centered in the Green Bay, Wisconsin area. We've got a little less than a dozen producer and associate members. We've been in business as a cooperative for more than 6 years. We still at this point remain very small though. And let's see, our co-op has been selling vegetables, fruits, honey, eggs, and then a bunch of meat, beef, grass-fed beef, 100% grass-fed beef, pastured pork, and poultry. The topics that I would like to talk about here would be why be part of a co-op and what challenges and advantages a co-op would have. Fill you in a little bit with what we as a co-op ourselves with Slow Farmers have had experiences in our history. Along the way, touch on what the pandemic has done for us or to us, if you will, and some ideas with partnership. And then definitely along the way, offer many recommendations and ideas based on what our experiences and history have been with the co-op. For most people who are producers, when you ask why would you want to be part of a co-op, many of them as producers, as farmers, would prefer to have someone else do the marketing, not deal with the marketing, the sales, and that kind of thing. But probably there are some very other huge reasons why you'd want to be part of a co-op. The idea being that you are cooperating with others that are doing the same kinds of things that you are and not competing with them. Whereas if you're all independent people and you're trying to eke out a living in a market area, everyone who's doing exactly the same kinds of things that you are with your foods are more or less your competition. And so a co-op is a way of cooperating or not competing with those others within that same market area. A co-op also is a big deal for opening up new markets, and you achieve with a co-op very often sufficient economy of scale that you can start looking at value add opportunities within your collection of farms. The co-op is something that you establish is a major challenge because each member has their own views or visions of what a co-op would be. And it's definitely not something for everyone because it really truly requires among the members, especially if you're getting started with a co-op, it requires a lot of goodwill and a lot of cooperation. And that I can't understate is an important aspect of it. A co-op, for me, as we have gone through this process, I've just been so pleased and amazed at the talent pool that you can find within the co-op. Our particular members for Slow Farmers Co-op come from a wide variety of backgrounds, and it has been really amazing at all the different things that co-op members could learn from one another. So that truly has been very special. When you're looking at particularly a well-established co-op, the being a member of a co-op allows additional employment and personal growth for members of the co-op as well as other family members for them. So that is an advantage I would view with that. Looking at our own Slow Farmers Co-op in the Green Bay area, we were formed without any physical aggregation site at all. We had no sales site, no processing site, no warehouse. In the first years of operation, we had no staff. The initial managers that we hired were retired and just outstanding, very talented people. And although they were paid for the most part, you would have to view them as quasi-volunteers. A major part of what they did was bring some procedures and sanity to our day-to-day operations. Looking back on that, I think I and other co-op members would say that, especially for you co-ops that are focusing on food quality. So here I'm looking at certified organic organizations, those that are emphasizing human health or the environment, things like that. I would say at the outset, what you would want to do would be to hire a permanent manager and then truly search for some gifted volunteers or quasi-volunteers that would help out at the beginning. And this would dramatically improve with the continuity that you would have as you start a cooperative. I am saying also that associate members or community volunteers are very useful, very helpful. They do exist out there. If you're doing something special in the food industry where you're focusing on food quality, such as certified organics, where you're focusing on the environment, we're worried about climate change on the whole, we're worried about human health. We just are through the tail end of a pandemic. People are out there that are very excited about quality food. And there are people out there in the general public who will help, who will be happy to volunteer at events and all. Look for them. That would be very helpful for your organization. A couple of years into our cooperative, we had one of our members, we had a couple members that put a lot of effort into looking for grants. One of the members was able to land a just colossal grant that was geared towards meat shares, or if you will, like a meat CSA program. This was in value over $240,000 that was spread across 3 years. So this was truly a big deal for our co-op. This definitely enabled, but it also forced us to dramatically jump in and really start pushing on co-op action as opposed to a bunch of individual businesses that had communal interests in mind. It also, with this meat shares grant, led to some very painful interactions that we had with the grant overseer. Predominantly, the painful interactions were withholding or delayed payments of monies that we had planned on for this. I would recommend, and I think every one of our co-op members and slow farmers would recommend, to continue looking for grant money for your co-op. Interestingly enough, in recent days, we had reports of Tom Vilsack, the Ag Secretary, likely announcing or will announce that there's going to be on the order of $500 million for small and medium-sized meat processing facilities starting in 2022. So that kind of money can go quite a bit of ways for small and medium meat processors. And if you're interested as a meat processor or as a meat producer to start some kind of meat processing, now is the time for something like that to occur. If you do end up with a grant like this, expect delays for receipts of funds. And more or less what that means is you would be temporarily self-funding your co-op. And that's pretty much what we saw with our meat shares grant that we had. Slow Farmers Co-op at the outset had no procedures, no customers, no facility, no pricing scheme. We had basically a blank sheet and goodwill among members. And initially, and to this day, it still holds true, our co-op sales are only a fraction of the member production capacities. So to help you get started along the way, if you're looking at starting a co-op, look for other co-ops for bylaws and operational procedures and things like that to use as starting points, and basically tailor them to your situation for your members. And then also look whether on a temporary or permanent basis, some kind of partnerships that you can form with others, whether that's involved with transport of things or storage of things of this nature. Also with our co-op, with Slow Farmers, we had at the outset 0 co-op customers. So finding customers for a business is always a good thing. And I would say for your co-op, good luck with that. To this day, I view finding customers as the most challenging aspect for our cooperative, and for that matter, for our individual business. Especially when you're looking at a food cooperative, or you're looking with certified organics or anything that would be non-commodity oriented in your co-op. Expect that you're going to provide a lot of education, both for your customers and for yourselves. And actually, after going through this process with Slow Farmers Co-op, I was amazed at how much there was yet for me myself to learn and to try to absorb and so on. Also, with your co-op, whether you're looking as a startup or as a well-established organization, on a periodic basis, you really want to identify what your points of difference are. Why would someone as a customer want to come to your producers, to your farm, to your collection of farms that you're using within your cooperative? And I would strongly recommend that you would develop a couple descriptions of what your co-op is all about. And this would be based as a foundation on what your point of differences are. Something that you can lay out in under a minute to maybe 2 minutes, and you would call these elevator speeches. And so the flavor of that would be something that would be geared towards marketing, what your mission statement is as a cooperative, and would gracefully lead into sales with this. This is something that we at Slow Farmers Co-op probably didn't do enough of, and we need to work at that ourselves as well. From a philosophical standpoint, choose what you're going to sell with your co-op. And I would strongly recommend that you don't sell food. Grocery stores sell food. Don't sell meat, don't sell veggies, sell something else. Sell things like health, what you're doing for the environment, what you're doing for experiences. This is what creates the mouth exploding experiences on a daily basis when you eat our foods, that kind of thing. Sell what you can do with education. Be what your competition in the mainstream commodity food industry is. Be transparent, sell transparency. This is exactly what you're not getting in mainstream foods. Also, as you talk with others and you're looking at your cooperative, you're effectively building communities. You're supporting local economies with this. Sell that. And also, as became very apparent as the pandemic 2020, and we had, through individual businesses as well as our cooperative, every Tom, Dick, and Harry that was trying to look for foods from us, and we sold out, basically tell people, we are farmers for hire. If you really want the kind of food that we are producing in our cooperative, then patronize us, support us, be part of us. We're producing things in a fashion that if you could produce for yourselves, you would. We're the farmers for hire. Initially, when we got started with the Slow Farmers Co-op, when we were marketing, one of the things that we were trying to do as reaching for different groups was looking at environmental groups, health groups, outdoorsmen. We wanted a presence at farmers market and things like that. And we had various successes along the way. Our grant for the Meat Shares program was actually geared for improving the local waters, the surface waters and groundwaters around the Green Bay area. We put forth lots of efforts to reach out to lake associations and other groups, and we had zero success with any sales, any real substantial interest in that. People that were interested in their health bought from us. We had weak responses or modest responses at farmers markets. We had incredible turnouts for farm tours and dinners and things of this nature. But when you look at the subscriptions, that was relatively weak. I think those are still important to do, though, the farm tours and dinners, and I would recommend that kind of thing. We have tried numerous times to push the idea of a whole diet CSA. That's been successful for vegetables, but it's been very little in terms of our meat sales with it. We started off with our Slow Farmers Co-op looking at institutional industry or institutional markets. And we were trying to do a lot with farm to school. That was a complete waste of time. We got some name recognition and branding with the corporate wellness programs. Unfortunately, during the pandemic, we completely were shut down with that kind of effort during the antisocial distancing that was part of the coronavirus epidemic or pandemic. We also, over the course of time, put a lot of effort into approaching various hospitals. Here we are trying to get access to the staff members. Here they're all involved with health and healthcare, but yet getting into do deliveries to staff members, to talk to staff members and things of this nature, or getting on hospital menus, it was all talk and no action, and it was basically quite useless. Another underlying problem is that today people cook a lot less often, and so it's harder to get involved with that. The pandemic forced people to spend a lot more time cooking. But if you look at nowadays versus 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 80 years ago, people cook a lot less. That's an underlying struggle. We were able to get into a corporate cafeteria or two. Right now, the lion's share of what we do as a cooperative with our sales is a co-op-wide vegetable and fruit CSA and a co-op-wide meat shares program. Both of these were really pushed by the coronavirus pandemic in 2020. And people bought from us based on fear of, one, not having food in the mainstream groceries, and two, worries about the safety of that food. That's what the pandemic brought to us as a co-op. It basically gave us a major breath of life. Whether you're looking at co-op startups or you're looking at long, well-established co-ops, pricing is really a very important thing. And I'd strongly recommend that you coordinate right at the outset if you're starting a co-op, and routinely throughout the duration of a co-op's existence, that you coordinate your pricing among the producers and among the co-op prices themselves. And the basic idea with this is that you do not want to make the pricing to a prospective consumer to be more attractive from an individual producer than from the co-op. So you do not want the producers to undercut the co-op, and you do not want the producers to undercut other producers along the way. This is actually a very important thing with the pricing of it, of your food products along the way. Our meat shares program that we have is basically dominated by a half dozen different meat shares boxes, and they are a variety of meats. Some of the boxes have beef, pork, and chicken in them. They're all frozen. We as a co-op do very little, if anything, to promote individual cuts. We're producers of whole animals, and that's how we would prefer to be able to sell them. When I look at the history of slow farmers, we formed without any facilities, without any procedures, without anything. We were a blank sheet of paper when we started. None of us as producers at Slow Farmers wanted to run a grocery store or a site like that. And that has really been a challenge for us, not having any retail facility or a specific place for on-site processing or on-site aggregation. If we look at what we as a co-op at Slow Farmers have been able to do, I think we've hit home runs in terms of the quality of our foods and the best value of our foods, but we have not hit the convenience of our foods. If you as a certified organic, high-end farm producer would be looking towards what you could offer, if you have your own retail facility with your cooperative, You can offer convenience, you can offer top level quality, you can offer the best value that you would possibly be able to offer any consumer. You're just not going to hit the lowest price. The mainstream groceries offer only two things. They offer convenience, they offer price. That's it. Other recommendations that I would have for producers based on what we see at Slow Farmers, you would only handle food products that meet your production protocol standards, that would meet the quality of what you're producing, the nutrient values and things like that. And if you have your own retail facility that's well located, and you can do some on-site processing and aggregation, things like that, I would strongly say invite some foot traffic. Consider a deli with it. The deli is a way of not just selling product, but it's a way of sampling the product and have people pay for you, pay for that. It's a way of dealing with the 2020s where people don't want to cook as much at home, or can't sometimes cook as much at home. This is a way of getting the foods out there and being paid for it. When you look at coffee sales, bone broths, and smoothies, focus on the health aspects of those. Focus on what you can do with coffee and how you can roast it regularly to provide the highest nutrient values that you get from the coffee. The bone broths and things like that, if you can process bone broths, those offer you a lot of benefits that not just provide sales, it provides a way of getting value for the bones that you have from your livestock that are going in for slaughter. And the idea with smoothies, even if you're 100% a meat co-op, consider having sections where you sell high quality fruits and vegetables. And if smoothies are part of it and that brings foot traffic in, that's what leads to additional sales for your meats. The things with when you have your own meat co-op and you've got possibly some on-site processing, you can create some things that people will travel for intentionally just for you. The bone broths, besides being great from a health standpoint, they do incredible things for your body in terms of keeping you as young as you can be. And that's really a positive that you would have for any kind of producer that's doing livestock. The reason that as a co-op, when you look at having your own site too, we can look at other meat shops that are supposedly really exceptional meat shops, but in essence, many of the ones that we see here in Wisconsin, and probably this is true for other places in the country, they actually are great meat counters where they have wonderful custom meat cutters there that can help you with cutting pork chops as thick as you want or as thin as you want, and can help you with planning meals and things like that. But these meat shops that we see here are basically sole sourcing or limit sourcing where they get effectively commodity meats. And these are shops that we have in our area where they do not have any interest at all in high-end meats. They don't want to put your high-end foods right next to theirs and show a price difference that you would have to have in order to make money for you as a truly high-end meat producer. So having your own site for retail is an important component of that. We have tried, and it's not, we've tried with our slow farmers to go to retail grocers and so on, and we've really had struggles with that. And when you follow the money, it's easy to see why that is. The dominant food system in the United States really consists of some kind of a producer or farmer, a distributor, and in our case, the cooperative acts as the distributor, and then the retailer. And when we look at the ideas of transaction volumes and markups and share of food dollars and sales rules and things like that, there's something that we can say about each of the categories of producers, the distributors, and the retailers. The farmer is going to need some kind of economy of scale to support a business plan and to minimize or make transport expenses affordable. Scheduling is a large deal for the producer, and you're selling whole products as a producer. You don't harvest a third of a pig or a half a cow at a time. The distributor gets bulk purchases from the producers, and when they turn around and sell foods to the retailers, those transaction volumes are only modest in size to potentially large in size, but they will have specific rules on what the minimum size is that they can sell to a retailer. They are necessarily very sensitive to product spoilage, and they drive their inventory levels based on logistics with restocking, sales forecasts, and product spoilage if there's a shelf life with something. The retail that they carry, you as a consumer get to purchase as much of or as little of something that they have in most cases. When we look at the money that falls behind all of this thing, let's look at an example of some meat. Let's say a farmer and a butcher go and they've got $6 a pound average expense for let's say a pig. And we look at going through a cooperative as the distributor, and suppose we do a markup of 25% on what the farmer and butcher prices are, or those costs. So the $6 per pound average packaged expense for the meat would then jump to $7.50 a pound that the distributor, the cooperative, would be paying for that. The retailer has much higher expenses associated with the sales to the end consumer, and they often are looking at 40 to 60, 65% markup ranges in many products or categories of foods. Suppose we look at 50% markup. So this $7.50 a pound price that they pay from the co-op, from the distributor for your high-end meat, gets marked up for an average price of $11.25 a pound for the average package price. So that becomes quite a substantial amount. You, the farmer and the butcher, would be only getting $6 out of that $11.25. So you're looking at just a little over half of the overall retail dollar going to you, the combination of the farmer and the butcher. Recently, since the pandemic, we're seeing our butcher prices drive dramatically higher. And that's really hurting us. And that drives more and more the reason for us as producers to also vertically become part of the butchering process as well, so that we can control that. When we look at our Slow Farmers Co-op approach, the idea of how can we keep the prices as affordable as possible to the consumer and not you know, deal with these very, very high retail prices and still have a strong hold with our customer? Well, if we can look at some kind of meat boxes where we're actually looking at some kind of volume, we can go directly from the co-op to a consumer where we're looking at selling meat boxes. And so, you know, the basic idea with the meat shares program would be, if we have a markup on the order of 25, 30, 35, 40%, we could go right from the farmer through the co-op to the end consumer. And we would look at a much larger percentage of the dollars going back to the combination of the farmer and butcher than what we would have otherwise. So when we compare that to the $11.25 a pound for the meat and the 53 cents or 53% that the farmer and butcher get, we do much better if we can go with fewer hands to the end consumer. If we have our own retail site where we're selling through the co-op at retail to these things, and we are actually looking at store kinds of things, we can use much higher markup percentages here, and we will need them as a co-op if we're doing this kind of thing in some kind of retail sales situation. We are looking at having, you know, still substantially lower prices than what the $11.25 per pound is for the meats if we have to go from the producer to the distributor, in other words, the co-op, to the retailer. So these are some of the basics that I wanted to point out, and was hoping that we could have questions and comments and discussions and things of this nature right now.
Yep, we got a few questions, Steve. Would you like me to read them?
Sure.
So let me get started with the first one. So Gary asked about the funding source for the meat shares grant. Who funded that grant, Steve, do you recall?
That was a public funding. I don't remember what organization had done that. It was, they had some, I believe, USDA affiliation with that.
Okay.
That's what I would have with it.
On the acquiring customers issue, hugely important for your co-op, curious about your trade area. Is it Green Bay Metro?
We actually are doing our meat shares and the vegetable CSA through Green Bay, through the Fox Valley, the Appleton area, about 30 miles, 40 miles south of Green Bay, and to Manitowoc, Wisconsin, about another 40 miles away too. So we are trying to hit northeast Wisconsin in about a 15, 16 county-wide area, about a third or actually more like a quarter of the state.
What's the population base then that you're working with? I'm curious.
We have within 70, 80 miles radius of Green Bay, we probably have in excess of 1 million, 1.2 million, 1.3 million per population. So it's truly, we're a very small speck in terms of the overall food producers in the area, and it's still been a struggle to get things going. And we don't want to position ourselves as producing food. We want to sell something else. People come to us not because they're hungry, because they're worried about what they're feeding their kids. They're worried about their health. They're, something else is motivating them.
On that note, Garyman had a comment here that said, agree on selling the benefits. People buy mostly because based on why you exist, not because of what you do.
That, I look at myself personally, and I've talked to many other people's, convenience has pushed us so many different ways. That's the whole idea with the supermarket, one-stop shopping. That's why with a co-op, having the multiple types of meat, if you can include some fruits and vegetables, things of that nature, people will come to them. Look at the convenience stores. People don't just go there to buy gasoline. They stop and they pick up coffee. They pick up a gallon of milk. They pick up snacks, whatever it is. And we need to use some of that to make the game better for us as producers.
Yeah, it's very interesting you mentioned the convenience stores, because here in Iowa, for example, one of the convenience stores called Casey's, all of a sudden now they're like the best pizza place, so everybody buys Casey's pizza, in addition to obviously gas. So yeah, I think like what you're saying as far as like diversifying and having different avenues and different items for sale kind of will entice more people, because if, for example, they don't want the beef broth, maybe they'll want the smoothie or things of that nature. So yeah. Getting a toehold or foothold for a new co-op, or if you got a well-established cooperative, certified organic co-op, I'm thinking in particular, having your a retail location near some kind of population center can be just the toehold that you can then leverage. Really, when we look at Iowa, a lot of Illinois, parts of Indiana, those are the places where you have the best soils, the most nutrient rich soils. That's where you produce the best foods. That's where you produce the healthiest foods. Everywhere else, even like in Wisconsin, we've got okay soils, but we really have to work hard to get the quality that you guys get there. And believe it or not, this last year in 2020, the #1 killer in the United States was heart disease, then cancer, and then much lower was the coronavirus. Much lower. The #1 safety thing for the coronavirus was having a strong immune system. And the strong immune system would have tied directly into heart disease and cancer. These kinds of things, the general public needs to hear. And these are things that we should be looking at. Where did our food get produced? How did it get produced? That's really the key. Absolutely. I could not agree more with, at the end of the day, knowing where your food comes from, the farmer that you're supporting and how it's grown, and knowing those practices and the care that goes into raising those animals, it's so important. And I think that consumers are getting there, and they're becoming more educated and are trying to be more supportive of that. So hopefully more to come for you as far as that's concerned. Steve, I have a couple other comments / questions. So Brian said, have you established a feedback loop from CSA Meat Shares members that inform the co-op of opportunities for value-added processing ideas?
We've had some formal outreaches, and we've had some questionnaires and things of this nature, more with regard to how did they like the foods, and we're trying to not just find the customer, but to hold on to them. Retention is a big deal, and that's true for any business. With regard to the processing, that we haven't done. We, as a co-op and as an individual farm, for us, we're basically, as an individual farm, meat producers as well. And so we spent a lot of time with butchers and trying to get alternative types of sausages. We've asked a little bit about the idea of bone broth. One of our co-op members is trying to write a grant regarding bone broth processing. That's something that all of us should want to do with our foods. That is, you send a cow or a steer or some animal like that in, you got hundreds of pounds of bone and refuse with that. And if you're looking at a true pasture managed animal, preferably grass-fed kind of thing, you're looking at the highest quality material that's contained within those bones. And they've all declined at this point. Some of it is facilities, some of it is just, no, I'm not interested in that. And that really, that should be part of the picture, I guess, is where I'm going at, especially if you're involved with meat shares and high-end meat.
Indeed. Gary has a comment here. He said, if you can crack the code of direct-to-consumer meat sales, that would be huge. Trying to sell through others, whether distributors, stores, or food service, rarely work.
It's it's hard. It really is. The thing, as an individual, see, it comes back again to, as an individual producer, I live outside of a town of 3,000 people, 3,400 people, and I would like to grow to have produced on our farm a couple dozen steers and 1,000 pigs a year. We could not even supply my hometown as an individual farm if everyone in town got all of their pork from us. We could not do it. We're only looking at a small part of the overall meat production in that area. And as an individual producer, I've seen time and time again where you have a run on interest in pork or a run on beef, and basically it's so often where we've got a heavy backlog in one but not in the other. We just had some people call and ask us, hey, do you want, we want to get a whole steer or cow from you. Well, it's not going to happen in 2021. That's where the co-op really comes into play. That's where, with our pricing scheme and with our protocols, we go back to them and we say, hey, we'd love to help you. We can sign you up for 2022. But here's the deal. We're already backlogged. We don't have the capacity. But our other fellow farmers do have it. And the co-op, as a mechanism to allow that to tie together and to support, not only our fellow producers, but also something for the administration of the co-op, that's a big deal. And from the perspective of the consumer, we want that consumer to know that we're going to be there for them, that we want to help them. And that this is why we link up with other producers. This is why we have the co-op. They're like-minded. We're interested in, the nutrient-dense foods. We're interested in the welfare of the environment. We're interested in wildlife and protecting water and things like that. So are the rest of our members. That's really a big deal. We, as members within that co-op, we really actually agree on much, much more than what we disagree. And it's been a good experience in that respect.
So how many members do you have in your co-op, Steve?
We're right around 10. There's always, in the process, there's always 2 or 3 farmers that are looking at joining and that are in the process of applying. And every now and then someone says, thanks, this I tried the shoes on, they don't fit for me, kind of thing. But also too, we're actively trying to find associate members, basically others that aren't necessarily food producers, but would be interested parties in the general public that could in some way, shape, or form help provide us by being the best cheerleader that we have within various groups, affiliations that they have, that would help with when we have on-farm dinners or on-farm tours. That's a big deal. And they're also great sounding boards. I mean, these are people that are also with our meat CSA or meat shares program and our vegetable CSA, where, hey, I like what you guys are doing. How can I be part of it?
Wonderful. And then how many customers would you say you have then? Do you know off the top of your head? And that's kind of a hard question, so.
We're looking at on the order of about 350 to 450 customers.
Okay, excellent. So what were your top selling products, let's say, or items?
Yeah, I would say that we sell relatively equal amounts of beef in terms of pounds as we do with the pork, and maybe with the poultry we sell a third as much that way. And with our vegetables, the great majority that we're selling through there is as a vegetable pack, as a CSA type package kind of thing. And our meats generally are going out as assortment boxes. So there's some roasts, some ground products, some sausages, as part of the ground products, some kind of steaks or chops that are with it. We have had people say, oh, I really want just the pork chops, or I really want bacon, or I really want just ground beef or something. And we haven't figured that game out quite yet. It's dangerous as a group to just say, okay, we're going to sell ground beef for $4 or $5 a pound. Every time we turn around, there's someone coming to us saying, why would I pay $6 and $7 a pound for ground beef, or $8 a pound for ground beef, kind of thing? And if you say, yeah, I get it, it's just ground beef, and you say, well, I'll just send some cull cows in, you're missing the point. The how would you say? You could have people like that say, I just want ground beef. And you could say, well, okay, I'll sell you it for a special price. And you say, I'll make it up on the steaks. But at some point, if you're not really looking at and valuing what you have with your ground products, what you would get with your cull cows that really often are as outstanding or better than any flavors you can get in the grocery stores and so on. You're shooting yourself in the foot. You don't want to undervalue some of those things. And specifically as an animal livestock producer, you are as much looking for markets for your cull animals as you are for your prime animals.
Very good.
There's a Wisconsin grass-fed beef co-op, and there's in the Minnesota area, there was 1,000 Hills Cattle Company, or I'm not sure if they got a different name for themselves. It's probably 1,000 Hills. But having heard both groups talk and had some interactions with them, they basically said, certainly this was several years ago, but they said, you know, we've got some outstanding steaks, outstanding roasts and things like that. But really what we're trying to do is sell ground beef. The rest of it will come with it. The rest of it will end up, people will say along the way, hey, I would like some steaks or roasts or whatever. But what you're trying to do, the trick is to get the value for even what would be viewed as the ground products, the lowest value of the things. And in reality, when you taste some of the pastured meats, whether it's beef, pork, or the chickens, the poultry, the turkeys, and so on, it is so different. It is so special. You have to take that into account. And this isn't like the confinement commodity products. It's so much better. And you need to find ways to get that value for your products.
Indeed. Well, you guys, we are coming up on the hour here. Are there any final questions? Feel free to unmute yourself or type them in the chat box. Otherwise, thank you so much, Steve, for being here today and for sharing your journey in creating your co-op. There's a lot of people saying thank you for your presentation, and this was very enlightening, wonderful to hear. Thank you for sharing these insights with all of us today. For everyone that attended, I will be posting this recording on our YouTube channel. If you have any friends, family, anyone that you think may benefit from viewing this recording, please send them to our YouTube channel to check it out. In addition, as far as our grant reporting is concerned, I will also be sending you guys a short survey. It will probably take you 5 minutes of your time to complete it. Would really appreciate if you could do that. We do use those responses to report back to our grantors. I will be sending the survey and the YouTube link here by the end of this week. So check that out in your inbox. But again, Steve, thank you so much for being here today, and thanks everybody for attending. And I hope you all enjoyed the rest of your afternoon here today.
Thanks, Olga.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.